Have you ever locked eyes with a canvas that seems to stare back, its colors shifting like breaths in a silent room, daring you to admit that beneath your daily grind lies a storm of feelings you've long ignored? Mark Rothko's art hits like that, raw, unapologetic, and utterly demanding. It's not the kind of painting you glance at and move on from. It's the sort that grabs hold and won't let go until you face something real inside yourself. Rothko, born in 1903 in a corner of the world torn by revolution and prejudice, carried that turmoil into his work, turning it into a visual language that speaks straight to the gut. He wasn't chasing fame or easy admiration. He was wrestling with existence itself, using color and form to lay bare the messy truth of what it means to be alive in a world that's often indifferent or outright hostile. His paintings, especially those from his peak years after the war, aren't about telling stories or depicting scenes. They're about creating an encounter, a moment where the viewer and the artwork collide in a way that can leave you changed, if you're willing to let it. At the heart of Rothko's aesthetic is his command of color fields, those vast rectangular expanses of hue that dominate the canvas like silent sentinels. These aren't crisp shapes with hard outlines. The edges are deliberately softened, feathered through layers of thinned paint applied with broad brushes or even rags, building up a surface that's alive with subtle vibrations. This technique, known as glazing, involves overlaying translucent veils of pigment, allowing lower layers to peek through and create an inner glow, as if the color is emanating from within the canvas rather than sitting on top. It's a method rooted in the traditions of old masters like Titian or Rembrandt, who used similar approaches to achieve depth in portraits, but Rothko stripped it down to its essence, applying it to abstraction to evoke not likeness but sensation. The result is a luminosity that's almost ethereal, where colors seem to pulse and breathe, drawing the eye into an illusion of infinite space. Rothko's compositions typically feature 2 or 3 of these rectangular forms stacked vertically, floating against a background field that extends beyond what the frame contains. The vertical orientation isn't accidental. It imparts a sense of aspiration, like columns reaching upward, echoing the architectural grandeur of ancient temples or Gothic cathedrals without mimicking them. Yet there's no rigidity here. The forms hover with a precarious balance, their asymmetry creating a tension that mirrors the instability of human emotions. One band might be wider, another narrower, with colors chosen to interact in ways that heighten this dynamic. A deep maroon pressing against a lighter ochre, for instance, generating a push-pull effect that makes the surface feel active, almost restless. This relational quality is key. Rothko wasn't painting isolated elements but interdependent ones, where the harmony or discord between hues drives the emotional impact. Technically, Rothko was meticulous, priming his canvases with animal glue to ensure the fabric absorbed the oil paints just right, preventing cracking over time and allowing for that matte, velvety finish he favored. He avoided the heavy impasto of his contemporaries, opting instead for thin washes that let light penetrate and scatter, producing an optical mixing where colors blend in the viewer's perception rather than on the palette. This scumbling, rubbing dry pigment into wet layers, adds a subtle texture barely noticeable from afar but rewarding up close like the grain of skin under a microscope. His palettes evolved over the years, starting with warmer, more vibrant tones in the early abstractions and darkening into somber grays, blacks, and maroons later on, reflecting perhaps his growing disillusionment with the world. But always the saturation is intense, the colors pure and unadulterated, designed to resonate on a primal level, tapping into what some might call the collective unconscious. Rothko drew from a well of influences that went beyond the art world. Philosophy, mythology, even anthropology shaped his vision. He pored over Nietzsche's writings on the tragic sense of life, seeing in them a call to embrace the chaos beneath order. And you can feel that in the way his colors clash subtly, creating undercurrents of conflict within apparent calm. From primitive art, he borrowed the directness of form, the way cave drawings use bold hues to convey power without detail, translating that into his own minimalism. Yet he wasn't imitating. He was distilling, reducing painting to its core elements to achieve maximum potency. The aesthetic traits emphasize immersion. The large scale of his canvases, often over 8 feet tall, forces a physical engagement where you stand close enough that the painting fills your field of vision, blocking out distractions and turning the experience into something intimate, almost confrontational. This scale serves a purpose beyond grandeur. It's about enveloping the viewer, creating a space where the artwork isn't an object, but an environment. Rothko insisted on specific viewing conditions, dim lighting, no spotlights, to enhance the work's inner radiance, making them seem self-illuminated. In bright rooms, the subtlety is lost, the colors flatten. In low light, they come alive, shifting with your movement, revealing nuances that a quick look misses. It's a realist's approach. Art doesn't exist in isolation. It's completed by the observer, and Rothko designed his pieces to demand that participation. If you rush past, you get nothing. Linger, and the revelation unfolds layer by layer, much like how real insights in life come from patience and confrontation, not superficial glances. Rothko's rejection of figuration was a bold stand against the limitations of representation. Early in his career, he experimented with surrealist motifs, dreamlike figures and symbols inspired by Freudian ideas, but he found them too constraining, too tied to specific narratives in a time when the world was unraveling. The horrors of the 20th century, the pogroms he fled as a child, the devastation of 2 world wars, the shadow of the Holocaust, convinced him that abstraction was the only honest path. Figures would pin down meaning. Color alone could evoke the universal, the ineffable. His works became meditations on transcendence and tragedy, using aesthetic means to bridge the gap between the material and the spiritual. The principal visual characteristics, the blurred boundaries, the floating forms, the chromatic depth, serve this end, creating an ambiguity that invites personal interpretation while steering clear of dogma. In terms of brushwork, Rothko erased all traces of the hand, unlike the action painters who celebrated the gesture. His surfaces are seamless, the result of endless revisions, sanding down imperfections to achieve a purity that's deceptive in its simplicity. This invisibility of technique shifts focus to the color's emotional weight, making the art feel inevitable, as if it emerged fully formed from some deeper source. The rectangles aren't symbols, they're presences, their proportions intuitively balanced to evoke stability amid flux. A taller form might dominate, suggesting ascent, while a squatter one grounds the composition, anchoring it in the earthly. Rothko's art is direct about human vulnerability. It's not uplifting in a saccharine way. It's honest about the darkness. Colors that seem serene from afar reveal tensions up close, edges where hues bleed uneasily, mirroring how joy and sorrow intermingle in life. He wasn't afraid to let his works embody despair, especially in later phases when palettes turn nocturnal, with blacks that absorb light like voids. Yet even there, a faint glow persists, a testament to resilience, reminding us that revelation often comes from facing the abyss. Aesthetically, the works embody a pared-down elegance, influencing generations of artists who sought similar minimalism. The interplay of warm and cool tones creates spatial illusions. Warmer colors advance, cooler recede, without relying on perspective, a trick drawn from color theory treatises, but applied with intuitive flair. Rothko mixed his paints with turpentine for fluidity, allowing controlled drips that add organic variation, preventing sterility. His commitment to authenticity meant resisting trends. He criticized the art market's commodification, seeing it as a betrayal of painting's purpose. For Rothko, art was a serious endeavor, a way to confront the existential void, and his visual language reflects that gravity. The stacked forms suggest hierarchies, perhaps echoing social structures or inner conflicts, but always abstractly, leaving room for the viewer's narrative. Engaging with Rothko's art can be transformative because it's unyielding. It doesn't pander or explain, it reveals through experience. Stand before one, let the colors wash over you, and you might feel a stir, a recognition of shared humanity in all its flawed glory. That's the invitation. Dive in, face the revelation, and emerge with a sharper sense of self. Rothko's techniques evolved from experimentation. He tested pigments for permanence, ensuring his visions endured. The aesthetic core, luminosity, scale, relational color, creates a dialogue, where the painting responds to your mood as much as you to it. Philosophically, he aligned with the tragic view, seeing art as a means to catharsis, purging through beauty and terror. His work's visual traits facilitate this, the soft edges inviting dissolution of self into the whole. In galleries, the arrangement matters. Rothko preferred groupings where paintings converse, amplifying impact. This ensemble approach turns viewing into a journey, each canvas a step towards deeper understanding. Rothko's realism extended to his life. He struggled with depression, ultimately taking his own in 1970, but his art endures as a testament to the power of creation amid pain. The characteristics, vibrant yet subdued hues, floating rectangles, immersive scale, offer solace in their honesty. To grasp Rothko, forget analysis, feel it. The revelation is in the encounter, direct and unmediated. His influence on modern art is profound, paving the way for color-field painting and beyond. Artists like Bryce Marden, or even contemporary installation makers, owe a debt to his emphasis on environment and emotion. Technically, the use of cotton duck canvas allowed flexibility, absorbing paints for that signature matte effect. The glazing layers, sometimes dozens, build complexity, rewarding repeated views. Aesthetically, the works defy categorization, blending modernism's formality with romantic intensity. The color transitions, gradual and nuanced, mimic natural phenomena like sunsets, but abstracted to universality. Rothko's art challenges passivity. It's a call to active seeing, where revelation comes from engagement. In essence, his revealing art strips away illusions, using visual means to expose truths we need but often avoid. Embrace it and find the motivation to confront your own depths. Rothko's exploration of color harmony drew from earlier theorists like Goethe, who viewed hues as psychological forces. He adapted these ideas, treating red as a symbol of vitality, blue as endless expanse, to craft experiences that transcend the visual. The preparation of his canvases involved stretching them tightly to avoid sagging, ensuring the surface remained taut for even application. Pigments were selected for their light fastness, a practical choice that preserved the intensity over decades. Visually, the asymmetry in his compositions adds dynamism, preventing stagnation and encouraging the eye to roam freely across the field. A brighter hue might offset a darker one, creating equilibrium through contrast rather than symmetry. Prolonged exposure to his works often leads to evolving perceptions. What appears monolithic at first glance discloses subtle shifts, much like how familiarity deepens relationships. Rothko's divergence from gestural abstraction highlighted his focus on contemplation over spontaneity. While others emphasized the act of painting, he prioritized the finished presence, each layer a deliberate step toward emotional clarity. The art addresses timeless themes of isolation and connection, using form and color to bridge personal and universal experiences. It's unflinching in its portrayal, demanding viewers acknowledge their own complexities. Scholars have traced how his immigrant background infused the works with a sense of displacement, the floating forms evoking rootlessness yet seeking anchor. The key traits, radiant grounds, suspended shapes, interactive hues, foster a participatory experience, turning passive observation into active communion. Rothko's workspace was austere, lit softly to mimic gallery conditions, allowing him to gauge effects in real time as he built the layers. His legacy urges authenticity in creation, challenging artists to prioritize depth over spectacle. Approaching his art requires openness. Position yourself near. Allow the envelopment and the insights emerge from that vulnerability. Rothko's self-taught color principles emphasized subjective responses, viewing hues as triggers for innate reactions rather than fixed symbols. He employed sizing with rabbit skin glue to seal the weave, promoting adhesion and vibrancy in the overlays. The blended transitions result from wet-on-wet applications where fresh paint merges seamlessly with underlying strata. Aesthetically, his minimal approach predated formal minimalism, emphasizing essence to amplify resonance. Rothko confronted societal flaws head-on, using art as a quiet rebellion against superficiality. The upright formats recall primordial markers, like standing stones, invoking ancient rites through modern means. Subtle imprints from tools lend tactility, inviting touch in imagination if not in practice. He occasionally varied to horizontal layouts, but the towering verticals prevailed for their commanding presence. Darker phases convey introspection, yet luminosity hints at underlying vitality. Proportions often intuitively align with harmonic ratios, fostering innate balance. Rothko's enduring appeal lies in its humanity, straightforward, uncompromising. Confront it and uncover personal layers previously unseen. Beyond technique, Rothko's aesthetic philosophy rooted in humanism, positing art as a mirror to inner turmoil and triumph. He integrated lessons from symbolist painters who used color for evocative power, adapting them to non-representational ends. Canvas preparation included multiple gesso coats for smoothness, minimizing distractions from the color narrative. The relational tensions between forms generate rhythmic flow, akin to musical cadences without sound. Viewers report varied responses, from calm to agitation, underscoring the work's subjective potency. Rothko's process involved iterative adjustments, often repainting sections to refine the emotional pitch. His art resists easy interpretation, rewarding those who engage without preconceptions. Influences from Eastern philosophies subtly appear in the meditative quality, encouraging stillness. The seamless integration of foreground and background erases hierarchies, promoting holistic viewing. Rothko's commitment extended to public accessibility, donating pieces to institutions for broader reach. Aesthetically, the evolution from multicolored to monochromatic fields marks a quest for purity. Technical innovations, like custom pigment grinding, ensured unique tonal qualities. The work's scale intimidates yet invites, balancing awe with intimacy. Rothko's vision remains vital, urging confrontation with the profound in an era of distraction. Delve deeper, and his art becomes a catalyst for self-discovery, revealing hidden facets through sheer visual force.